Hey everyone, it's Allie and welcome to my channel, and today I am super excited to be sharing with you everything that I read during the month of June. Alright, so this video is not going to be super long because I only ended up reading 5 books during the month of June. It ended up being a very busy month. My sister came and she's still here. She's here till the end of July. Also, my brother and his whole family came for a week, and I did not read, I think, at all that entire week. So for everything that happened, I'm surprised that I even ended up reading 5 books, but these were some good books, and I think I found one of my new favorite series of all time. Okay, but let's go in order. So first up, I read The Last to Vanish by Megan Miranda. And I've read, I think, nearly every book from this author. I think there's just one book that I haven't read that just came out this year. And I feel like the first 3 books I read from her, I liked a lot more than like the last few. And I read them all in like different order. It's not like they are worst to best in terms of when they were actually published. So when I first started reading this author, I thought she was going to be like a favorite in the thriller genre for me, and unfortunately I would say now I still like her a lot, but she's not like an absolute favorite. But all that to say, I definitely will still read anything that she puts out, and I think that overall she is a really good storyteller, but I have found the books themselves to be a little bit hit or miss. And this is unfortunately one that I didn't love. I did ultimately give it 4 stars though. It does have a really cool setting. It is set in like a cozy mountain town in North Carolina, and this town has become known for people vanishing. And I feel like it had such a good premise, but I did find the book a little bit slow, and I didn't think the twist was really that crazy. So I wouldn't say that this is like an edge of your seat thriller by any means, but I do think it still was a solid story, worth reading, but just not my favorite. And then I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I of course have been hearing a lot about this series over the last few years. A lot of the booktube girlies love this series, and I kind of had just chalked it up in my mind before I even read it as another romantasy series that would not be really my personal cup of tea, but I was so surprised that I loved this book. I totally ate it up, and this was one of the most entertaining books I'd read in quite a long time. And I think the reason that I personally love this book and this series so much is because, unlike a lot of other romantasy books, this is not really like a fairy book or something like that, which I don't honestly love. Like, this is much more a fairy tale, kingdom, magic kind of fantasy, and I love those books. That's like my favorite subgenre of fantasy myself, is more of like the fairy tale setting. But I felt like this book was really well paced, it was entertaining throughout. I really like the main characters, I really like the dialogue, and I wouldn't say that this is like the best written book of all time. It definitely does feel like a YA book, but I don't mind that at all. But it is just something to keep in mind, I think, that this is written very much for like the YA audience. I'm 31 and I really loved it. I think people of all ages could still really enjoy this story. And another thing that I really love about this series compared to many other adult romantasy series is that this is very clean. There's talk of kissing, but really that's it. And I think this would be appropriate for, I would say, like 7th grade and up. So if you are someone who doesn't like reading the smutty novels like I don't, then this might be a really good romantasy series option for you. I did give this one 4.5 stars just because it did take me, I would say, like 100 pages to get into it. But by the end, I was totally hooked, and then I did read the second one, which is called The Ballad of Never After. And I do think that this one was stronger than the first one, and for sure an easy 5 stars from me. And I like too that this continued right where the first one left off, and I am like dying to read the third one. But the third one is only available in hardback, and since I have the first 2 in paperback, I'm definitely gonna hold off on buying the third one, but I'm gonna be going to the library very soon, and I'm hoping they'll have the third one because I just really want to know what happens next, and I haven't felt that strongly about a series in a really long time. And maybe unpopular opinion, but I do personally like this series a lot more than A Court of Thorns and Roses, even though I do think the writing in those books is stronger. Then I read perhaps my most anticipated read of the year. It was kind of between this and the reappearance of Rachel Price. Those were like my two top books that I wanted to get that were coming out this year. This is Stuart Turton's third release, and unfortunately I would say it was my least favorite of his books, but I think that's just kind of what happens with an author like Turton, because all of his books are mystery based, but they're all extremely different, and I really respect him for that. But when an author's books are so different from each other, you never really know what to expect with their next book. And so I do think that this was really well written. I think the story absolutely came together in the end, but it wasn't my favorite kind of story because it's very much like a post-apocalyptic kind of book, which I don't really love. And ultimately, I just wasn't as interested in this story as I was in his last two. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle was for sure my favorite, but I also did really like his other one, The Devil in the Dark Water. But this is an author that I am following. I'm always like very interested in when his next book is coming out, so hoping the next one hits a little more for me than this one, but absolutely still a fantastically written book. And if you are more into post-apocalypse stories than I am, you'll probably really like this one. And then the last book I read was The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, who is J.K. Rowling. Finally picked this book up. My mother-in-law very kindly sent this to me because in one of my last videos I was saying how I'm collecting the books in this series, but I just have never been able to find the first book at secondhand stores. And so once I got this, I was very happy to put it at the top of my to-be-read list. And this book did not disappoint at all. I really enjoyed it, and I am not a massive like crime fiction detective story fan. I think sometimes they can get a little bit boring because so much of the books are dialogue and there's not really a lot of action necessarily. And this book is for sure like that. It is a slow burn. There's a lot of dialogue, but of course J.K. Rowling writes very, very well, and I really liked the characters. I like the detective Cormoran Strike and his assistant Robin. They're characters that I'm interested in. I'm very interested to see how they develop throughout the entire series. And this book did take me a while to get through because it is 450 pages, so this is another reason why I only ended up reading about 5 books this month. But I'm trying to focus more on that, not shying away from books just because they are long and taking a little bit more time with books like this. I did give this 4.5 stars just because it was a little bit slow for me at certain points, but if you really like crime fiction and detective stories, I think you would really love this book. And I'm gonna really try to read one book from this series every month until I finish it. There also is a show, I think it's just called CB Strike on BBC, so I for sure want to watch that as well. I'm gonna try to like watch each series after the book that it was based on. So after talking about that series for quite a while, I'm finally getting into it. But alright, those were all the books that I read during the month of June. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe because it really does help my channel out a lot. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!